Ready.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Happy Sunday. On behalf of the Board of Governors of the Catholic College of Mandeville, the President of the Catholic College of Mandeville, the Vice Presidents of the College, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our first Education Symposium, as we have a conversation about the value and place of higher education in Jamaica and in the global economy and landscape. A special welcome to all our guests online joining us on YouTube, and an even more special welcome to our guests on Zoom, our speakers, taking time out this afternoon to participate in this conversation. I am your host, Joan Belfont. I am the coordinator of the Master of Education in Teaching and Learning program at the college. And co-hosting with me, you will see him in a minute, is Reverend Justice of the Peace, teacher and principal, as well as alumni of the program, Reverend Everton Tyndale. It is a pleasure to be joining you this Sunday afternoon. Before we go any further, may I invite Sister Una to lead us in prayer and start the proceedings off with the divine presence in our midst. Sister Una?
Good and gracious God, we come before you with praise and thanksgiving to ask your blessing on this symposium as we continue to promote education, not only in Jamaica, but throughout the world. May your Holy Spirit guide our sharing, that it will benefit those participating in the symposium, together with the development of the master's program here at the Catholic College of Mandeville.
Sister Una needs to be unmuted. Thank you, Sister Una. I think my co-host should be on now. Reverend Tyndale, are you with us? Okay, I'll continue then.
Okay, I am.
Oh, there you are. Thank you so much.
We're experiencing some technical difficulties just now. I doubt we heard all of Sister Una's prayer, so I don't know if the host wants to just ask Sister to pray again. That would be lovely, because most of the prayer, for most of the prayer, Sister Una, you were muted.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yes, it has happened before. So Sister Una, it's a double blessing is fine.
Okay. Good and gracious God, we come before you with praise and thanksgiving to ask your blessing on this symposium as we continue to promote education, not only in Jamaica, but throughout the world. May your Holy Spirit guide our sharing, that it will benefit those participating to this evening, together with the development of the master's program here at CCM. And dear Lord, may you bestow a blessing on all who have been involved with the master's program for so many years at CCM, and especially our colleagues at St. Mary's University, Minnesota, our partner and guide in the development of a master's degree in teaching and learning. In your hands, Lord, we place today, tomorrow. In your hands, Lord, we surrender all. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you so very much, Sister Dr. Una O'Connor, for that wonderful prayer. And as Ms. Belfon said, a double blessing is always welcome. All right, thank you so very much. I am your co-host, Everton Tyndale, a proud graduate of the Catholic College of Mandeville and the St. Mary's University of Minnesota in the Masters of Education, Teaching and Learning program. And I'm also pleased to introduce to you Dr. Dwayne Dice, who is a proud graduate of the Catholic College of Mandeville and of course, St. Mary's University of Minnesota Master of Education program. He's also the chair of the Jamaica Diaspora Education Task Force. It is our pleasure having you, sir. Please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tyndale, Pastor Tyndale as well. And pleasant afternoon, everybody. I want to make it very, very short because I really want to hear what the presenters have to say this afternoon about elevating education for Jamaicans in Jamaica. It is a privilege to be a part of two actual, partnering institutions, but of course, Catholic College of Mandeville and by extension, the St. Mary's University of Minnesota, twice actually in St. Mary's University of Minnesota. It is a privilege to actually become a part of the esteemed institutions. Because of that, we elevate our own selves in terms of educational development. And as we elevate ourselves, our families become elevated as well. So it is no mistake that we place so much emphasis on educational development for our people. It's very important that we take education as it is, and I want to add value education, place it in the hands of our people so that they will be able to elevate their young ones, leading all the way up to higher education. It is not out of our reach. It is very, very reachable or very simple in my own way to actually put ourselves in a position to work hard to advance education for our own people in Jamaica as well as the diaspora. The education system in Jamaica needs the boost and also the level of confident people to advance the educational status all the time. So with Catholic College of Mandeville taking over the master's program and also reaching out in the diaspora and around the world to show and to pronounce their emphasis and their views, their own talented researchers and everybody they will come in contact with in terms of learning. We are here to support the Jamaican education system as they move forward to elevate education. We're here. And so I want to turn over back to our host this afternoon, and I will sit back and I will enjoy everything that everyone has to offer this afternoon. Thank you so much for having me, and also for having all of our practitioners presenting on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dice. I think Everton is muted.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Dice. Certainly, it's elevating Jamaican education for Jamaicans, and I'm happy that you have said it all. You know, with the program, the master's program, and so many other programs that we have at the Catholic College of Mandeville. Certainly, we are creating our own little niche here in Jamaica and the world. And when we look at the persons that we have here, we know that, you know, we are shining our light. It's so wonderful to have with us Dr. Diane Davis Smith, who is the president of the Catholic College of Mandeville. And this is my little introduction of her. She is a moving president. She's always on the move. She's always doing things. And when I look at the college and the program offerings that are there at the Catholic College of Mandeville, I can say she's small in stature, but she has a big heart, big hands, and she's doing a wonderful thing. Dr. Davis Smith, it's my pleasure to hand over to you now.
I thank you kindly, Reverend Tyndale, proud graduate of Catholic College of Mandeville. I come in the stead of the Vice President who has responsibility for graduate studies, but I would have been here anyway, so now I get an opportunity to speak. Welcome, everyone. I bring special greetings and deep gratitude to all for joining us at CCM's Education Symposium. And might I just add, our very first symposium for the Catholic College of Mandeville. This Education Symposium demonstrates a continued commitment to higher education learning in showcasing and promoting what's highly reputable, what's renowned for the level that it supports in our local sector. And I speak of the Masters in Education in Teaching and Learning. CCM holds its position as a sound higher education institution in Central Jamaica, in the region, our Caribbean region, and recognized well beyond those boundaries. And we recognize the higher education contribution to the development of our people. And Dr. Dice is right, that we must strive to build ourselves so that we can build our families and we can build a better society. So in recognizing the value of higher education for the development of the people, our people, and in turn the development of our nation, we take seriously the role that we as Catholic College of Mandeville can contribute to the Jamaica's 2030 vision, reducing poverty, an educated workforce. And so we've aligned our strategic plan to support the fullest potential in education. So we take a stand on education excellence and its role as a learning organization that keeps evolving to meet the changing educational needs. And I pause here to highlight that long before COVID did a keep, we at Catholic College of Mandeville always offered a percentage of our program delivery online. So persons were already familiar with the value of learning online, not losing anything, no compromise on teaching and no compromise on quality. So we're a little ahead of the game, and I'm sure that Reverend could certainly agree that yes, it better prepared us for now that COVID start keep. CCM's leadership embraces these changing times, and we seize the opportunity to keep up, with the role that we've already initiated. CCM's leadership is putting strategic plans in place to grow and diversify the graduate offerings over a short to medium term, with the outlook to have another master's level program and yes, a doctoral level program soon and very soon. So, Reverend, we're working on it for you. The move to increase graduate level program offerings is important because graduate programs engage the research process, which is essential in helping us better comprehend and investigate human problems. Research provides us with a new ways of looking at the world's complexities with a quest towards expanding learning and insight, and yes, bettering our lives, the lives of our families, our immediate communities, and the wider cross-section of our nation. So this education symposium is very special for CCM. While it primarily serves to showcase and promote our Masters in Education in Teaching and Learning program, at the same time, it is a celebratory moment for CCM. It marks for CCM our sole ownership of the MED program, which was offered jointly previously with St. Mary's University of Minnesota. This sole ownership and delivery of the program will demonstrate CCM's strengthened position as a higher education institution. In this celebratory moment for CCM, I must acknowledge our founding president, Sister Dr. Una, Sister Una for most of us, one of the leaders who brought this MED program to CCM. It is truly special to have Sister Una with us for this symposium, where she's seen the valuable legacy from her founding work with CCM. And also we have her support in the transition of the program fully to the Catholic College of Mandeville. In this light, the Catholic College of Mandeville community is truly excited and looks forward to the new cohort in this Masters in Ed program. I thank you all coordinators, planning committee members for putting this symposium together. And I welcome you all here with us on Zoom and those on YouTube watching us live. Welcome to this symposium. I hope that you leave inspired by virtue, I know, and I take that back. I know you will leave inspired by virtue of these presentations that are lined up for you. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Davis Smith. Thank you for setting the stage and painting a picture of the Catholic College's vision for higher education. And I would imagine it's an example of the thinkers across the island as they represent and create higher education. That's the kind of thinking they bring to develop the Jamaican landscape. We thank you so much for taking the time. If you are just joining us, you just heard there, or you would have probably just missed Dr. Diana Davis Smith, president of the Catholic College of Mandeville, sharing the college's vision as it takes over solely the ownership of the Master of Education in Teaching and Learning. Our next presenter, Mr. Shirley Morgan, represents the National Education Inspectorate and is pinch hitting for Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, the Chief Officer and Inspector of the National Education Inspectorate. Mr. Morgan is the manager of the Research and Information Management Division of the National Education Inspectorate, with responsibilities for providing relevant research findings to internal and external stakeholders. We welcome to share with us this afternoon, Mr. Shirley Morgan.
Pleasant good afternoon. Can you all hear me? I just want to make sure.
Yes, we can. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you today. I must first begin. Thank you for that wonderful welcome and introduction. I'm very humbled to be here in the capacity as research manager representing Mrs. Maureen Dwyer. I tender sincere apologies for Mrs. Dwyer. Up to last night, we were working on the presentation. And if you know the NEI, you would know that we work very closely So I support the chief in whatever it is that we put out from the National Education Inspectorate. So we would have been there gathering a lot of data, putting this presentation together and saying, okay, yes, we're ready. And at the last minute this morning, Mrs. Dwyer called me saying that she had an emergency and she wanted for me to present for her. I am humbled and I'm honored and I'm up to the task. I'm equal to the task because we've done this before. I love education. I talk education. I love spitting out numbers. So I look forward to contributing to this conversation. So let's get right in because I know today is Sunday evening and you all have a lot of things that you want to get back to. So in our deliberation, sorry, forgive me. May I share my presentation with you? I should have started that from before presentation, yes.
Dr. Dice, can you give?
Yeah, he's good to go.
Great.
Share.
Just share your screen down below.
Are you?
Yes, we are seeing you. You're good to go.
You're seeing the presentation or you're seeing my screen?
We're seeing the presentation.
All right, wonderful.
As well as your screen. So I don't know which one you want to show us.
Technology is...
All right, there you go. You're good to go.
Yes. All right. So, you're going to have to forgive me because I actually made some notes that I wanted to follow. But in the context of a Zoom presentation, I was trying to set up 2 laptops and it wasn't working. But right.
Never mind.
I must say a lot has happened in education. And I am proud to be a Jamaican. I am proud to be a Jamaican teacher. I am proud for how Jamaica has responded to education. And these are my own words, these are unscripted. Because what we have observed from the National Education Inspectorate's perspective is a resilient nation, a resilient teaching force that has adapted to this COVID crisis. Now we're here talking about higher education. And for the next couple of minutes, I want us to consider the benefits of higher education, some functions of higher education institutions. And we deliberately put this in for you, the Catholic College. We did a little bit of research coming into this symposium. We also want to look at support for higher education and specifically public expenditure. And we want to also speak to access to higher education. So the first thing I want us to look at is the size. Okay, can you?
Yes, we can work with it.
All right, no problem. So in speaking about higher education, we pulled out 4 benefits from a research done by Hale, Hoffman, and Rex in 2005. And basically they're saying higher education provides value to people. It provides value to economies, and it provides value to the society as a whole. In terms of people, now it is almost self-explanatory. Private returns with a higher education degree, with a master's degree, with a PhD, your earnings will go up. Your annual earnings, your earning potential, your way of life will go up. In terms of the social benefits, higher education allows for us to have a more educated workforce. And I think we all know the benefits of having a more educated workforce. I researched it, and even though research says it, I didn't write it, but the spirit has moved me to also say it. A reduction in crime rate. And people may argue for or against, but in more civil societies, the higher education factor usually works against the high crime rate. We also find greater productivity in our society because we have better thinkers, we have innovators, technology, innovation, better ways of doing things. We also have higher enrollment in education, and this transfers to money because the sector will grow. And I think over the last couple of years, Jamaica would have seen that, where we almost had an explosion of offshore universities. I don't know if this was preempting COVID, but that would have been an unprecedented time where we don't have to depend on the institutions that are on land in Jamaica, but you could virtually attend any university. And it's no surprise that on the onset of COVID, we were already prepared for some of what was to come. Now, geographic distribution of university graduates, that's also a benefit. And if we never thought of it before, with the high mobility of our labor force, if these persons are higher trained, then you would have a wider distribution of graduates to service the population. And I'm not just speaking about teachers, I'm speaking about our technocrats, I'm speaking about our professionals. And this increase in the average educational attainment would do a lot for our country and for our society. Before I leave this issue of the benefits, though, there are some policy issues that we should consider. And I'm going to say this in preparing for this conversation, because I don't view this as a presentation. We want to stir your thoughts. The NEI has never been an organization that has ever visited anywhere and not had anyone think about their purpose, about what education means and how we can get better. And the return on investment is something that we want to consider. And in the there's 2 slides, we would look at expenditure on education, because we couldn't hear in all fairness be speaking about higher education and not look at what is expended on education. The economic development strategy is also something that we have to consider. And while we are in this closed forum, the Catholic College, our little symposium, it has bigger implications, the quality of our workforce. What sort of graduates are you turning out from the Catholic College? How do they contribute to the professionals in Jamaica? How do we contribute to the overall workforce, public infrastructure? The government would have to look at amenities, the business climate, and also financial support for the tertiary sector. I am going to ask you to consider for a moment what higher education should promote. In the research that we did, we opted to present as thought-stirring conversation points: self-awareness, peer support, and proactivity towards self-improvement. And for the mere reason that it would be quite obvious that educational institutions should promote success, academic success, and that is obvious. But there's another side of it, and this study, which was done by Kingston in 2017, looked at dropouts. And in that study, it was interesting that emotional intelligence was found to be an influencer of dropout. So I want to present to you, the Catholic College, some points to consider. In that study, for the courses that had a high dropout rate, those students seemed to have higher self-esteem. They were more confident. They were more outspoken. They were found to be controlled by emotions. They were extrinsically motivated. But they didn't trust their peers. While they trusted the lecturers, they didn't trust their peers for support, but they were reactive to self-improvement. Conversely, those in low dropout courses, their self-esteem was lower, they were empathetic, and they were rather reflective, but they were found to be in control of their emotions. They were motivated by themselves intrinsically. And they had high confidence that they, along with their peers, could make it. So along with the support that they had from their teachers, from staff, they also had the confidence that their peers could push them through. But they were proactive. They took matters into their own hands. They promoted self-improvement. And we found this rather interesting in the conversation on higher education, because sometimes we get focused on just the academic outcome, the academic output, and not on the social side, not on the person that we're putting out. So we want to throw this into the mix for consideration, that we must always consider that other side of the individuals that we're turning out into society, because we can have an educated society, but an educated society that is lacking in the social side does not necessarily mean that we would be a better society or a more productive society. I'm going to touch briefly on the support for higher education. And in particular, I want us to look at or to consider expenditure on education, government support for higher education. Jamaica has made very bold moves. I don't know if we all are cognizant of the transformational steps that we would have made in education. We are a product of transformation. The National Education Inspectorate, we were envisioned to provide quality external assessment. But I'm going to point you to the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission, JTEC. And they were formed around about the time I mentioned before, when we had a ballooning of all of these institutions. And I think we had some issues with accreditation of some of these institutions. So persons would have been enrolled in these institutions, completed, because that word successfully is loaded. They would have completed that tenure at the institution, only to find that at the end of it, their rewards were not recognized. So one of the efforts that the government put in place was to establish the JTEC, which would streamline, which would put a handle on all of these institutions that are coming in, sort out issues of accreditation, sort out issues of transferability of credits and courses and the work that you would have done, level the playing field. Also, the Education Commission was established to deal with matters that had to do with anything in the tertiary sector. So our government made some very bold moves towards supporting higher education. Now, we did a little research on spending. And to be very precise, we looked at expenditure on education in the Caribbean, and we also looked to the rest of the world. Now, we're not necessarily comparing, but what is wrong with comparing? So within the Caribbean, if you can see here, Jamaica, this is expenditure on education in general as a percentage of GDP. And we're seeing where we're spending approximately 6%. This is 5.8%. So our budget, we have 6% allocated to education, compared to a Cuba, which is 13%. Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are in that 5% bracket, but all the others are below. Antigua Barbuda 2.5, 2.8 for Haiti, St. Kitts 2.6, Turks and Caicos 3, St. Lucia 3.7. Just to give you an idea of the value that we place on education. But you know, I went outside, or we, I should say, went outside just to look at the other bigger nations. And we found that we were not doing so badly in terms of that first show of support to education, which is what we allocate to education. And we found that in the UK, expenditure 5.5, in Canada 5.2, the United States 4.9, and in Singapore, I found this very interesting. Singapore had allocated 3% of their budget to education. Questions to ask, I leave them in your head. But this is the picture. This is how we are compared to our Caribbean counterparts and compared to the rest of the world. So I would say we're not doing too badly in terms of our effort to at least say, let us crack this monster called education. But you know, we went a little deeper. This is what we do at the NEI. We dig. And we looked at expenditure on higher education now. And this is of that portion, of that 5% that we allocate to education, what percentage goes to higher education? And we found that Jamaica, unfortunately, I didn't have any data for Cuba. I was disappointed because with 15% of the budget, I was really curious to see what percentage was spent on higher education. But for our context, in Jamaica, 18.9, approximately 19% of that budget is channeled to higher education. Now look at what is happening around the Caribbean. Barbados allocated less to education, but 1/3 of that, 32.7, was allocated to the tertiary sector. If you have questions in your head, please write them down. Whether you ask me or not, this is our mission, to have a conversation so we can think about some things, so we can effect positive change. Turks and Caicos, 23%. So there are two other Caribbean countries from which we could source data. And I should say this data was sourced from the UNESCO Institute of Statistics, the World Development Indicators, updated as at February 2020. So two other Caribbean nations are spending more of their education purse on higher education. But look at the case for St. Lucia, 4%. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 6%, and so on. So it sort of gives you a picture that even though you have apportioned this much of your GDP to education, when it comes to tertiary education, there are different priorities. Now, again, we did that comparison to the rest of the world, or some countries in the rest of the world. And we found that where Canada had their portion to tertiary education in the amount of approximately 36%. Similarly for Singapore, in the United States, 27%, and the United Kingdom, 21%. The reason why we threw this in was to provoke your thought. So are we spending enough on education, and are we portioning out enough to the tertiary sector? It is a debate. One would argue, do you spend more on early childhood, and with a stronger foundation, it will trickle up to the tertiary level, or do you spend more on the tertiary level for those who would reach there? Let the questions continue in your mind. This is our mission, to stir some thought. Now, we at the NEI, we are not normal. And I'm boasting, yes, I can stand behind our words. We are not a normal institution. We dig deep. We go beyond the surface. And our mission is to help to promote school improvement through quality inspections. That's our job. But for the purpose of this conversation, we want to dig a little bit deeper. And we felt that coming here to speak to the issues around tertiary education would not be sufficient if we didn't look at the stage before tertiary education, because there are some issues that trickle over or affect what happens in the tertiary sector. So to be very specific, we inspect up to the secondary level of education. The primary and secondary levels are what we're focusing on now. Well, that's what we're mandated. That's what we've been mandated to do from the 2004 Task Force report. And it's interesting that we monitor a number of indicators, one of them being matriculation. And the picture is a little grim. Now, what I'm presenting to you are the matriculation rates for the last 10 years in Jamaica land we love. I want to define matriculation. Matriculation is the acquisition of 5 or more C6 subjects, including mathematics and English language. And these are what will enable you to transfer to that barrier, to this barrier that we are sitting in and discussing now, higher education. So without 5 subjects, you cannot go into that realm. You cannot reach up into the, I don't know, persons argue 3%, 5%, but without attaining that mark, you cannot reach there. And it's interesting to know that over the last 10 years, actually in my possession, I have data before this, but it's even dimmer and grimmer. But we have not been able to surpass the 25% mark. So if I split this up into 5-year bands, can you see my pointer moving? So that first circle speaks to the first 5-year of this 10-year period. And we were really playing below the 20% mark. To our credit, as a country, and if you want to argue with me, you can, because I'm arguing with myself as well. To our credit, we have moved above that 20% mark. So we've managed to have an average of 24%. But is that really sufficient? What this is saying in simple terms is that a quarter of our students who exit the secondary system have the opportunity to make it into the tertiary system. We find that this is cause for concern. Now, we're looking at national figures. So for those of you who may be affiliated with specific schools, you may be thinking a different thing because you may know your matriculation rates for your individual schools, but we're talking about national data here. And I went there because, I mean, I could call names out of my head. There are some schools that have matriculation rates of 75, 80, 90%. But there are some schools that have matriculation rates of 1%. Yes, it means that after 5 years of attending an institution, a secondary level institution, you don't make it to the tertiary level. So while we're having this conversation about higher learning, higher education, the tertiary sector, we have some problems that must be fixed at the level below. Now, this is what we do. We stir the water, and I should apologize if, I cause a riot, but it's a conversation. I disaggregated this data, this matriculation rate, by region, educational region. So the country is split into 7 regions. So we're talking about Kingston, St. Andrew. In Port Antonio, we're talking about St. Thomas, St. Mary, and Brownstown, St. Anne. Montego Bay is St. James, Westmoreland, Hanover, Mandeville, St. Elizabeth, and Manchester. So you get the picture of how we would have disaggregated the island in terms of educational regions. And it's just for argument's sake, let us look at what is happening in our Kingston region and the schools that we have in Kingston vis-a-vis the schools that we have over there in the hilly interior of Portland and St. Thomas. And you see a stark difference in the matriculation rate in these regions. So the question to ask is, what of the uptake, what of the opportunities that are available to the students in these regions? I continue to stir your thought. We broke the data by parish, and this is just a manifestation further, not of the 7 regions, but of the 14 parishes. So this is your Portland region, this is your Kingston region, and so on. The point to these slides is to speak to inequity. Do students in these regions, in this parish, have that equal opportunity to enter this realm of the tertiary sector? We knew this session would not be one of answering questions, but it is our job to ask some questions. Yes, this slide breaks up matriculation into urban and rural. It was worrying when I saw it, but it was expected. So we have here an average of 28% of the students who attend urban schools matriculating versus rural. I'm only saying this for us to be conscious of the fact that we are continuing with our tertiary education sector, but are we catering to the widest possible public? Finally, there is a designation of secondary high schools called the traditional, and it's not used. It's not used again. So for those of you who would be above a certain age, you would know what we call grammar school. Yes, if you could just give me a thumbs up or a hand or a wave, I would know how many of you are over a particular age. But these are the schools that were originally, every time I say it, it pains me, but forgive me, I have to say it. These were originally the schools that were intended for the elites in our society to go. Those who we would have picked out, or those who by virtue of our family and our lineage would be entitled to an education and would be entitled to become smaddy. And for the rest of us, there would have been the secondary high schools, the new secondary, the comprehensive. Are you feeling me? Are you getting what I'm speaking about? So all of these schools over the years up to 2014, 2015 would have been upgraded, and we would have called them high schools. There would have been some new schools that would have also come into existence. So we've lumped new and upgraded schools together, but we've left those traditional schools that were in existence in the earlier part of our educational existence. We leave them as traditional schools. These are the schools that would have the benefit of strong alumni, strong educational support. And we are also stirring and mudding the water. These are the schools who would get the highest performing students in our country. There's no shame in that. That is just how we've been operating. So here are the schools who would have the lower performing, and in some cases, what we call the lotto numbers, students who can't even make what I think lotto, the highest number in lotto is 36. They can't even make averages of 36. And I'm using from Common Entrance and GSAT, because even with the PEP, they're not proficient. So here's a picture. We have students in our secondary level. Oh, sorry, I didn't mention the agricultural and the technical. So for those who are strictly vocational based, and for some reason we would have created pathways and channeled them into these institutions. So where they're not so academically inclined, at least we would be able to secure vocational training for them. So we have 14 technical and 2 agricultural high schools in Jamaica. But look at what is interesting. Matriculation from the technical and agricultural schools is higher than our upgraded. Well, new and upgraded are lumped together. But look at matriculation and these are average figures here, I must point out again. Look at matriculation in our traditional schools. We have an average of 59%, and we have an average of 9% in the upgraded, a difference of 59 percentage points. We have some work to do to close this gap. I'm sorry if I muddled the water. I'm sorry if I disrupted your agenda. We're here, we're talking about higher education, and we want to continue to push and promote higher education. But there's some work to be done right across the system in terms of financial support to higher education and also to secondary education, so that we can get more of our students going up into higher education, so we can have a better society, a more prosperous society, a more educated society, a more learned society, a more positively thinking society, hopefully reduce crime rate.
Mr. Morgan, Mr. Morgan.
Yes.
Yeah, we have about a minute more.
No, I'm actually ended.
Okay.
I'm actually ended. Cool. So I was just about to say the questions and the comments are going to be in your mind. And I'm not sure if the facilitators will be taking questions, but if not, you could just write them down and begin to ponder them. We wish you all the success from the National Education Inspectorate, not just for a successful summit, not just for this conference, not just for today, but for going forward, for what September will bring, because we still don't know. Thank you for having us. Thank you for listening to me, and all the best from the National Education Inspectorate.
You're muted, Miss Belfon.
All right, my host keeps muting me. Thank you so much, boy, to make research so exciting. That was a powerful and very impactful presentation. A lot of food for thought, and really, as our audience on YouTube and elsewhere, as you contemplate applying to higher education, that research you just looked at paints a picture of what you are coming in higher education to address, to fix. It is really your mission and action for us at the higher education level. And I do hope this research can be available to us, Mr. Morgan, because as we at the college plan our programs to move forward at the higher level, it gives us an idea of what we need to do, where to pitch our courses, what we need to bring on stream to begin addressing the disparities. So we thank you very, very much for muddying the waters. And if our guests on YouTube, if you have questions, you can share it with some of our people who are monitoring you there. And if we get it here on Zoom, we'll address it at some point. But we will want to have your questions and compile them because they contribute to our planning. Thanks again. And please thank Mrs. Dwyer, Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, for her contribution to the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
You're most welcome. And I could hear the excitement from the researcher. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Our next two presenters shared a dream and made that dream a reality of a Master of Education in Teaching and Learning at the college. Known affectionately as Sister Una, Dr. Winifred O'Connor came to Jamaica in 1992 from Dublin by way of the USA to help with teacher training and was the president of the Catholic College from 1992 to 2014. Dr. Scott Sauvage is the Dean and Professor of Education at St. Mary's University of Minnesota and was part of the lead team setting up the MEd program in Jamaica. Sharing a brief historical look at a program birthed internationally, but nurtured and grown locally, Sister Una and Dr. Scott, as he's affectionately called. Let us start. Share your dream for higher education with us.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I'm coming in at a very different angle from our previous speaker, from Shirley Morgan. I feel like a century ago I am going to speak. My task was to really answer the two questions, and I will try. Why a master's degree? Or what are the benefits of a master's qualification? So when I saw that initially, why a bachelor's degree came into my mind, why the diploma in primary education, why CCM? These were the questions that came into my mind when I read it first. And basically, I'd have to say that it takes me back 30 years ago. So I am referring to a very different time frame than today. I'm very aware of that. So a lot of what we experienced then is probably way past, but I do still believe in certain things that have promoted our success in those early years. And I'm going to just read as the beginning a quote that I took actually from the 30th anniversary yearbook, which was put together by a committee, and I know very much involved Mr. Everton, Pastor Everton Tyndale. And so with that, I'm quoting now. This was said by, what her name, I've forgotten the name, but it was of Minnie Louise Haskins. All right. Give me a light. Oh no, I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, give me a light that I may tread safely into the unknown. And he replied, go out into the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God. That shall be for you better than light, and safer than the known way. Now, this actually is very much the way my life developed when I came to, well, throughout my life, but especially looking at a mission to Jamaica. It was based really on the mission of the foundress of my community, Sisters of the Cross and Passion. Her name was Elizabeth Prout, and in the mid-1800s, she developed schools in Northern England for the very poor teenage girls, mainly immigrants from Ireland, teenagers running away from particularly at that time, the famine in Ireland. She recognized that there was a need. She responded to that need. And so this is why she began to actually develop schools for these teenage girls. There was a need. She responded to that need. At the same, as time went on, after I came to Jamaica, that was in 1992, Bishop Paul Boyle, he was the first bishop of the Diocese of Mandeville. He was very supportive in our program. And as a new bishop, he had chosen as his motto for the diocese, "His cross is our hope." We decided, a group of us, to use that same motto for the college. So the motto of the college, "His cross is our hope." It was Monsignor Michael Palud, Ron Hamilton, Eugenie Neal, and myself who made that decision. Now, for 30 years, the cross has been a factor in the development of CCM. But as we know, with every cross, it is also hope of resurrection. And so from those crosses, those challenges, we have been able to see positive, advantageous outcomes. At the very beginning, when I went to Jamaica, I was coming from the United States and previous education and so on in England and Ireland. So I came as the foreigner, but I was blessed to have two excellent, experienced Jamaican educators, Deacon Ron Hamilton and Eugenie Neal. Ron introduced me to the Jamaican primary school system. We toured these schools and we spoke with the teachers. I was able to ask them, well, what did they need? These teachers were all what we called then pre-trained, no training. In other words, some of them basically probably finished at grade 9 and then took a job in the schools, in private schools mainly. And so at that time, providing education that had a qualification attached to it became the need. The mission of the college has always been to reach out to those who need and then in terms of education, at really reasonable, as we said, reasonable cost, which in this case had to be very small, simply because it was a lot for the student, but in reality, small for the college. These pre-trained teachers earned what I would say, I don't know if your expression is here, but pittance. In other words, pennies were about what they were earning, so small. Now, we accepted the students based on our mission. We accepted students at their initial academic standard. That was a challenge because we had to ascertain that each student coming into the program certainly did not have the CXC in various subjects that would be required today and even was required before I left Jamaica, well back while we were in the college. That all changed. But they came in, and through in interviews, written English, a little mathematics, we realized that these were people who actually had the ability, the intelligence, and the will to go into an education program, and they were accepted under these very different conditions from today. Those of you who are maybe watching this, I'm not sure, retirees, many of you who have retired over the years, you will be familiar with what we called the mature entry requirements that we developed. And again, this was an effort to allow students into the program and at the same time fulfill the qualifications which eventually were required of everyone, like CXC mathematics. And that was not a favorite subject with any of our incoming students, maybe once in about 100. Remember, I'm referring to 30 years ago, even 20 years ago. Whether this is still a challenge or not, I don't know. But eventually, we had a class beginning in 1992. We began the college in a room at Mount St. Joseph Prep School, 18 students, one male. It was a Saturday, and that was actually then later in that year, we relocated, or the next year, we relocated to St. Paul of the Cross High School. Gave us a little more space. It allowed for a technology lab and more in terms of eventually library. So developments were being made to improve what we had to give for the students, and the students themselves were in fact responding and coming in and getting the entry requirements at that time. Financially, it was a big challenge because the college depended on student fees. And we all know in those days and even today, fees are difficult to get. However, CCM grew and grew, and that required increased space. So the college moved then again from St. Paul of the Cross to Caledonia Road campus, given to us for use by Bishop Paul Boyle. Then eventually kept growing so that it became clear that space was a factor. When we were accredited, both the primary education by that time and the Bachelor of Education had both been accredited by the University Council of Jamaica. And so then here we were with accredited programs, but very lacking in space. In 2009, that was a comment from the UCJ, who came for reaccreditation of the programs. And fortunately, through the negotiations with Stevie Linky Chow, the Ray Chang Foundation provided us with a substantial donation, which allowed us to really decide on a new campus. That new campus was in 2010. And that by the time it was ready, it was the January of 2013 that we moved from Caledonia Road down the hill to Williamsfield, just on the residential part maybe of outside of Mandeville. Now, all of this had its own special challenges apart from the ordinary everyday. One of the major challenges was acquiring accreditation of the diploma in ed and of the diploma in primary ed, later on even in early childhood education. And so in order to continue with the upgrading of programs, etc., we wanted then to be definitely recognized by the government that our accreditation by the University Council of Jamaica would hold in government schools. We had an example there, a real story behind this. Mark Brown was the first male to graduate from the college in the first graduation class. He eventually moved into a government school. When his first payday arrived, he didn't have the necessary official documentation to provide him with the salary, was not present, had not arrived. For a month, we agonized over this because this was really a testing ground. When we found that that document had come, but it had been misfiled in the school office. So Mark finally had the required document and he received his check. And believe me, we celebrated because we had passed that very important step that the college program was being accepted in the government schools as well as in private schools. Now, as time went on then, trying to condense this down for you. At that point, once we had the Bachelor of Ed program pretty much organized, running, accepted, then we said, what next? And of course, immediately, what do you expect? From a diploma to a bachelor's, from a bachelor's to a master's. And so this is where we set our sights on beginning a master's program. Now that takes me to the reason why St. Mary's University of Minnesota? Well, again, another example of God's intervention, to be honest. Our Bishop Paul Boyle knew the president of St. Mary's University, who was Brother William Mann, a Lasallian brother. I had contacted him way back in 1994, hoping to have a partnership for the diploma or the bachelor's, but he explained that it would be too difficult. And based on his experience with a college in Africa, he said it takes years for that type of approval to be obtained in the USA for the college in Africa. So that's when we decided to seek local approval, which in fact was more beneficial to our students, who are mainly women with families, definitely not looking at traveling beyond Jamaica at that point. And so our association with UCJ began there. That was 1994, I think, was actually my first meeting with Ethlie London of the accreditation office. And so the story continued. The master's program came on board. And with negotiating initially with Brother Mann, then we had the group from St. Mary's. Now, also important at this time was that CCM actually sponsored Sandra Hamilton to study at St. Mary's University for a doctorate, and thus become well acquainted with the Lasallian methods and standards. And therefore, she was prepared ahead to coordinate the SMUM, as I call it, Masters in Teaching and Learning at CCM. And so On February 19, 2008, the Master's Program in Teaching and Learning was officially launched. This was attended by two people who were so helpful to us during those years setting up and after it, Tracy Lenertz and Suzanne Peterson. They were by our sides. I had a lot of correspondence and connections with Tracy, who really worked through accreditation and everything else, so much to do with the accreditation of the master's program. That we had to undergo, actually, not just in Jamaica, but also by the USA, by the Teaching Learning Commission of the USA. And so again, visits from accreditors, writing up self-studies, all of that was important. And so we actually had the first graduation of the Master of Ed program in 2010, 18 graduates, and some of them are right on this program here tonight. Right, Everton? And so here we are at the moment. Why? Like, what is it about a master's degree that would help the student or help the person? So much of what Shirley Morgan provided for us fits with exactly what I am about to say too. The mission of each of our institutions, St. Mary's and Catholic College, it was engaged in a partnership, and the partnership provided a foundation of philosophy and direction. And this enhanced the mutual respect and cooperation experienced in establishing the program, and also in the execution of the daily related tasks, as well as facing challenges demanded so that we would assure the quality of the outcome. And the quality of the outcome, of course, refers to the wonderful graduates that came from that program. Based on several articles, actually, by the MEd graduates that I have read, this program has had a distinct impact for good on the teaching skills in the classrooms of its graduates, hence on the education of the children in Jamaica. So many of these graduates are now in positions even of administration, in the government, in Ministry of Ed, in schools. I could go on with a long list of far and wide, not just in Jamaica, but overseas. And some of you know that too, right? Dr. Dice would know from the very beginning, and who an example of going on and getting further education based on the simple diploma followed by a bachelor's degree and then their master's. What are the advantages of having a master's degree? And this is where I'm very much in tune without the slides that Shirley Morgan provided for us. But in my own words.
Interrupt you. I really do hate to interrupt you, but in terms of time,
Yes,
we need to hear Dr. Scott.
so very good.
As
very
you get
good.
to,
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, it was a wonderful piece of history. We could listen to you all day, and we plan to have a time when we can do that. Dr. Scott, can you just pick up from where Sister Una left off as she begins to, tell us further about that journey of the Master of Education in Teaching and Learning?
I would be happy to, and thank you, Sister Una. Greetings, good afternoon, good evening, and maybe good morning to each and all of you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with you today. I beg your patience. I'm going to speak briefly from my prepared notes because my mind is in two places. My daughter is in the hospital in labor right now
Wow.
on bringing our new granddaughter to the world. So I'm going to stick to my
Ah,
notes as best I can. So with that, I want to continue because it is important to be here and be together. And doesn't this emphasize the precious nature of our time together? So let us remember that we are in the holy and loving presence of God as we share in this moment with one another. This is your community for learning, your work, and I'm your servant for these next few minutes. What a gift your attention and presence is. Thank you. I'd like to offer some remarks on how my story and yours are bonded together, how this journey of education often takes us to places we could scarcely imagine, places that improve us as human beings and contribute to the flourishing of our common humanity. Maybe I can start with some of my story in connection to the Master of Education and Teaching and Learning program at the Catholic College of Mandeville. I'm a professor of education at St. Mary's University of Minnesota. My scholarly interests center around leadership and education for improving the quality of life for the next generation. So much of what has already been spoken about aligns with that thinking. I'm a husband, father, son, grandson, friend, and grandfather. On my best days, I am a teacher and a grandparent, for these are the same thing, a striving for the practice of unconditional love in a way that unlocks deep human potential and makes love more possible for everyone. I found myself in the office of the educational leader Deacon Ron Hamilton in 2003. I was covered with concrete dust, wearing shorts and a torn t-shirt, just wet behind the ears as a new assistant professor, guiding a group of students on a mission trip to support some of the work at CCM. Had I known the seed that would be planted at this meeting, I might have dressed better. But that's how I arrived. Deacon Hamilton welcomed me with grace and hospitality, that kind of special Jamaican hospitality that has edified my own humanity many times. I now consider Deacon Hamilton a treasured mentor and friend. God rest his soul. One resounding idea coming from that meeting has led to our time together today. Deacon Hamilton insisted with profound wisdom what Sister Una has already talked about, that Jamaican education would indeed be elevated by and for Jamaicans as an example for excellence for the world. The many meetings and agreements and much hard work that Sister Una spoke of that started that day and before has resulted in the excellent foundation on which the Master of Education and Teaching and Learning program offered by CCM stands. The MED program will always be one of quality offered at CCM because CCM was always the facilitating educational institution. Let us take briefly a metaphor from the beauty of nature that surrounds us, the metaphor of the magnificent yet common tree, the trees that surround us. The partnership that led to the excellence of the MED program at CCM is a reflection of leadership in higher education and is rooted in the rich soil of Jamaica. The roots of this great tree represent the traditions of two higher education institutions, united in mission. The trunk is the core that is faith-based higher education. The integrity of that trunk is vital to the very survival and flourishing of the tree. The branches represent with the visual richness the many paths that take us to our sense of purpose as human beings. And we are all leaves on the same tree. All of us leaves on the same tree. Unique, different, connected, even over space that sometimes separates us. You and I may find ourselves interrupted in the busyness of our day sometimes, standing, staring at the beauty of a tree, wondering why, what it tells us about ourselves. We can trust the integrity of our shared work, and we must tend to it, care for it, as it needs to continue to stand, and honor it as this work and mission contributes to the deepening of our common humanity. My intention here is not to represent all of the thinking, collaboration, and work that led to the rootedness of this exceptional program. Sister Una spoke about much of that. Rather, I wish to convey what compelled me to get involved, to speak up, to persist in the growth of quality education through the MED at CCM. You see, I am Lasallian. The Lasallian tradition is rooted in the life, work, and vision of St. John Baptist de La Salle, patron saint of teachers. It may be helpful to you if I share some of the Lasallian lexicon so you might know more about a collaboration that led to the MED at CCM. As a practice, I begin each class I teach reminding my companions, as I did today, that we are in the loving and holy presence of God. I engage learners I've been called to serve as those who have been entrusted to my care. I conduct my life work in community. Lasallians would say, together and by association, noting our connection to one another and our shared commitment to the mission. Lasallians devote themselves to quality education for everyone. For us, all means all. Lasallians can often be seen engaged in education, always scanning the margins for those who have been marginalized. We serve all learners, but have a special commitment to those without access or who are experiencing some form of poverty, material, spiritual, cultural, etc. Virtue for Lasallians is a set of practices, not just a list of ideals. We are called to see the sacred in each person entrusted to our care and to offer our sacred selves to others. Lasallians are called to acknowledge their inner life work, a deep and abiding sense of interiority, the sacred space where we can reflect, discern, and contemplate. We believe that knowledge is constructed in the mind of individuals, and that our social engagement with one another is essential to our intellectual and spiritual growth as human beings. We believe that we learn deeply when we learn with and from others, in shared commitment to those we will go on to serve. You might now see why the origin of the partnership between St. Mary's and the Catholic College of Mandeville emerged. CCM's mission, rooted in hope, St. Mary's mission, rooted in faith, met in the rich soil that is the beauty and promise of Jamaican education, to find that which St. Paul reminded us is the greatest, the love that is the infinite power of the universe, offers a source for the kind of education that lifts people into the promise of their God-given potential and capacities. This can and must happen through quality education. Teachers and leaders with the CCM MED are resonating the quality and integrity of this venture. Leadership is as leadership does. As Sister Una said, look around, see what they're doing. See the good and great work of those who studied, connected, collaborated, and grew their professional practice and commitment in the pursuit of excellence. Jamaicans leading Jamaicans in quality education is devoted to deepening roots and ever-reaching branches that make our world a better place for those abiding challenges we face. Elevating higher education in Jamaica is a complex and beautiful devotion. The Jamaican education approach has strengthened the MED program at CCM in a way that contributes to the elevation of higher education everywhere. From my lonely perspective, I can say on my best days, I am a teacher, and I am a better teacher and grandfather thanks to my companions in the MED program at the Catholic College of Mandeville. I abide in my continuing hope that the CCM MED will touch others in a way that it has touched my mind and heart and spirit. There is education that helps form people, and then there is education that transforms people, that transforms processes, that transforms structures for a more just and loving world. The MED at CCM is a conduit for the continuing important work of teachers and leaders that will transform society. Education will indeed take us higher and deeper together. And finally, I would like to share with you a list of why I believe in the universality of the CCM MED for Jamaica and the world. The Master of Education and Teaching and Learning program from the Catholic College of Mandeville is valuable because, number one on my list, it prepares teachers and other educational leaders not for the world as it is, but for the world as it can be. Two, we live in what the US military calls a VUCA world, that is, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The next generation learners of the world need teachers and leaders with the depth and quality promoted by the program. Three, the development of your inner life work and sense of purpose and meaning is integrated into the program. Four, your voice, who you are, not just what you do, matters in this educational venture. Five, the program will not only make you a better teacher, but a smarter educational leader, a leader that works to humanize systems and structures for the greater good. Six, the treasure of the future hope of Jamaica and her promise in the world is buried in the hearts and minds of those leading the way. This program unearths and honors that gift. Seven, as Sir Bob Marley sang, only ourselves can free our minds. This sentiment is at the core of the program. And lastly, I have a bias for the CCM MED because I have experienced it. I also have a bias for excellence, hope, faith, and love. I would like to conclude briefly by offering this. I hope that you are all able to find some time in slow and silent thought to reflect on the reality that you are loved and loved deeply. And there's nothing you can do about it, except possibly to share it with others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Scott, my co-host. Thank you, Dr. Scott. I think is my co-host around. Reverend, are you with us? All right, while we wait on the Reverend to step back, I really want to thank Sister Una and Dr. Scott for that journey.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you go.
Right. So the host probably wanted you to continue. No, I have to speak about Sister and Dr. Scott. Dr. Scott ended on a note, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. And, you know, I want to thank Elizabeth Prout. I want to thank Sister Dr. Una O'Connor. All hail the CCM. His cross is our hope. And I want to also thank the St. Mary's University of Minnesota, Dr. Scott, because, you know, while it is that we were talking about his cross being our hope at CCM, here comes St. Mary's University of Minnesota talking about faith. Dr. Scott said, we can trust the integrity of our shared work. We can trust the integrity of our shared work. Thank you so very much, Sister Una, for the work that you've put in to make CCM what it is today. And Dr. Scott, I'm so happy that I met you. Those morning greetings, they didn't go in vain, because I've learned as a principal that that too is important. Thank you so very much. It is also my pleasure to introduce the next segment. We're going to welcome our alums. And the first one is Inez Douglas, who have, oh Lord, Inez, we have had wonderful conversations. Inez Douglas Gordon is married to Kemar Gordon and is a mother of a handsome 9-year-old son. She's of the belief that education offers a passport to success in modern life. It helps people improve their lives and the lives of those around them. She's a firm believer in the principle of the Bible, and it's my pleasure having her here, and she's going to speak. Ines, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, audience, viewers, and the host of this education symposium. I must say I am elated to be here this afternoon, but most importantly, to be asked to share in this event. Today, I greet you from Jamaica, where I am currently transmitting. I am a proud past student and benefactor of the Catholic College of Mandeville and the St. Mary's University of Minnesota. Like Nelson Mandela, I believe education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. My teaching journey began in Jamaica as a pre-trained teacher in 2005 at Hazard Primary School, then as a summer school teacher at the One Way Preparatory School. The zeal and passion I had to help direct students to the path to their future goals motivated me to pursue my diploma and bachelor's degree in primary education at the Catholic College of Mandeville. After training, I started teaching at Miller Heights Primary School, where I spent 3 years. During my tenure there, I hungered for more knowledge to better my praxis as a junior teacher, as well as to advance my career. There was so much more out there to learn. It was for those reasons I decided to course of study leading to master's degree program. I researched the offerings from several institutions that could catapult me to higher heights. And so faith had it that I would return to the Catholic College of Mandeville, who at the time was partnering with St. Mary's University of Minnesota. I was like a hungry animal in search of pasture, not just any pasture, but the one that could satisfy my quest. Little did I know the steps I took in choosing this great institution is one that I will always applaud whenever matters of education are arising. Navigating my way through the master's program was never without its challenge, but I received a lot of help along the way. The amazing faculty that CCM has was always there to steer you in the right direction. I must say thank you for making my way tenable. After completing the master's degree in teaching and learning, I was pensive about my next step in the career. Reflecting on the many skills learned and the wealth of knowledge garnered, my next step was eminent that I was not only a prime candidate locally, also one of the international arena. I want people, teachers, to know that it is okay to access higher education in Jamaica because it prepares you for anywhere in the world, for any career, any job that is looking for quality employees. My search led me to the Middle East. That was my first destination. After launching out to establish to Africa, where I am currently functioning in the capacity of a classroom teacher. I believe when the time comes, I will find my true place as a global teacher. The master's degree I pursued, twinned with my years of expertise, has equipped me with the expertise, skills, and strategies I currently utilize as an international classroom leader. This has enabled me to stand out amongst many. The foundation laid by the excellent cadre of Jamaican facilitators continue to help me shine wherever I go. The facilitators have also grown in one way or another with the program and stand to provide aspiring teachers like me the same quality institution and facilitation I received from the Catholic College and the St. Mary's University of Minnesota. Locally and internationally, teaching are big on data, assessment, and research. The courses on assessment and research I did during my graduate studies have helped me to critically analyze my students' progress as well as their strengths and weaknesses. Additionally, those courses have helped me to identify possible solutions, turning weaknesses or challenges into strengths. The critical role then of teaching is not merely to impart information, but to positively impact students' lives for not just today, but for the long haul. My administrators and colleagues alike have seen my research, data-driven instruction and interventions. My work and results speak for itself. It is for those reasons that I tutored to be an asset to my school. The master's program has helped me to understand the international curricula and framework, for examples, the Cambridge Common Course curriculum and the International Baccalaureate framework. From as far back as in 2005, Gore postulated that teachers who have intercultural experiences adopt a more critical view of their own teaching approaches and become better able to judge the appropriateness of foreign trends when teaching in their home countries. Adding that intercultural experiences deepen teachers' understanding of the meaning of culturally sensitive pedagogy, as well as increasing awareness of their own identities. Alred 2003 added that the growth that comes from living and teaching abroad is holistic as cognitive, personal, social, and cultural domains are involved. The master's degree in teaching and learning is well regarded overseas. It has paved a very important role in my stability internationally. Transitioning from one continent to the next is something that keeps on knocking at my door. This is because of the impartation and qualification that has resulted to handling my task excellently. The training gained from the Masters in Education in Teaching and Learning is a permanent part of my career story and staircase to where I am transversing. A time comes when you will stand to the judgment seat. Unprepared life always results in unacceptable outcomes. The hefty burden one carries is when you know but you do not do anything about what you know. Life has its own rewards for him or her that stands to the challenge. It is with the tools gained, positive or negative. Change is imminent. While SMU and CCM have had a great partnership for a decade, the time has come for CCM to launch their own med program, and I'm confident they will come out victorious as they have always done. There is no doubt that the Masters of Education in Teaching and Learning program offered at CCM will continue to prepare and catapult current and prospective students to greater heights. Viewers, the host of this symposium, ladies and gentlemen, I am CCM. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can write your questions down and you can also ask your questions at some point throughout the presentation.
Thank you so much. And it's not mine to say thank you. I just want to go straight into introducing Mark Smith, and my apologies, should have done that earlier. Now we have another graduate, another alum from the program. Mark Smith is a career educator. At present, he serves as the headmaster of Monroe College. Prior to that, he served as education officer with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Region 5. He has over 20 years of experience in delivery, development, and administration of education in Jamaica. Mark, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Everton. It is indeed a pleasure to join you all. I am just so excited to be actually a part of this wonderful gathering this evening. And I see so many videos. Of course, I must pay respect to, of course, Ms. Joan Belathon, Mr. Everton Tyndale, our moderators, and of course, the lovely Sister Una O'Connor, somebody that believe me, she has been an incredible impact on me in terms of leadership, in terms of her passion and love for individuals and human development. Also, Dr. Marcia Chin, our president, and Dr. Dwayne Dice, who reached out to me, and we had a fantastic, I remember Dwayne many years, I believe he followed me. He was a year after me. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Dwayne. And of course, Dr. Sorva, and I am still, totally captivated by his way of teaching, his way of engaging. And if there's one lecture that did stand out, one of those foreign lectures that we had to do, one from the campus overseas, it would have been Dr. Sorvag. I mean, when he came down and he did facilitate many of those classes, it was really something powerful. It was something that was life-changing for me. And I looked at him, I said, it looks like he's getting younger. And so I look forward not too long from now to speak. But I have quite a bit to speak about, so I'm going to get right into it. And of course, Inez, nice meeting you. What year were you? Oh, she's probably unmuted. She's probably muted. But I want to take this opportunity, first of all, to talk about something that's very important to me. And that is the whole idea that education is our only way out, colleagues. It is our only way out. Let us not for a moment believe that the ills and the challenges that we face in this country can be resolved by increasing the size of our police force or increasing the amount of money in terms of infrastructure projects. That is not where the solution will lie with empowering our citizens, ensuring that the Jamaican populace has a greater pathway and more pathways to accessing tertiary education, to ensure that we can uplift and inspire the next generation, to ensure that the future of this great island is secured. And it's going to start by not seeing education as something for a few, but expanding that understanding, expanding that worldview to embrace this notion that we have to find as many avenues as possible to ensure that we can bring quality education to all men, ladies, boys, and girls in this country. And so, when I sat and I listened carefully as Sister Una shared about her vision, her coming to Jamaica, I believe in 1992, and how it fostered with the team that they worked with, they started this amazing institution, this amazing idea. It was birthed from this notion that they could create access. And I listened carefully as she spoke about another sister who's I believe it was in Ireland, who started this particular school to help students who were pregnant. And it usually comes, some of the greatest ideas in this world come from the heart. They're fueled by a desire to make an impact. And I remember those very early years before CCM moved to its fancy new location, where it was very small and very cramped, but learning occurred, and learning occurred in a very amazing way. And I'm fortunate to be one of those individuals who benefited from it. In those early years, I did not have the privilege of parents who could have financed my way. I was a bit what should I say? I was very stubborn. I refused to take loans. And so I wanted to fund everything, try to be creative as possible, fund my education out of pocket. And it was very difficult. But an opportunity presented itself. By that time, I had a bachelor's degree, and I saw the ad in the paper talking about this partnership between St. Mary's University and CCM to bring to Jamaica a solid master's program, something that would enrich, would add value. I was particularly excited about the quality of the program. And when I looked through, in fact, I had a colleague of mine, at that time I used to work at Vera Technical High School. I was a teacher there, and he encouraged me about it. He said, listen, is this worth looking into? And he started showing me the course outline. It was quite different from what at that point in time I was actually looking forward to pursue a master's, and I'd applied to several places. But there was something about this program that really captured my imagination. And in fact, I must say that I have absolutely no regrets. I believe if there was ever one period of my life that there's life-changing experience, it was by pursuing this program. And I'm so excited for the Catholic College of Mandeville at this junction in their history to be taking up the mantle and carrying on this program. You know, of course, I'm sure we're all appreciative of the work that St. Mary's will put in and the partnership. However, I think the time is right for CCM to move boldly into the future by spearheading the work in ensuring that this program is now offered locally. And you know, for there are those individuals out there, I'm sure, who are going to be thinking to themselves, you know, probably the program won't be as strong. You know, I have such faith in the administration, in the individuals who are administering the program at this point in time, that I'm confident it will only move from strength to strength, colleagues. And you know, I want to also appeal to that individual out there who's thinking, you know, I probably want to go to UE or I want to go to UTech, and that's fine. It's an individual choice, but let it not be because it does not have, CCM does not have the years behind it. You know, so I would like to think all the time we have to go to a university that's 100 years, 120 years. UE, by that standard, isn't that old anyway. Yeah? So you put that in the grand context of things. But every university starts off, every college, every school starts somewhere. There's a starting point. And it started when Sister Una and the incredible team decided to come up with a concept of CCM in what, 1992, in the 90s. And it has grown from strength to strength. They are accredited. So this is not a case we're talking about non-accredited. No, they have proven that their degrees stand up to scrutiny. I am living testimony, Inez and so many others. Everton, we are proof that the program attracts and is able to train and support the development of a strong professionals that are able to go into the system and impact it in a positive way. And I also want to give you 3 examples because I went through a plethora of information in terms of universities and how they would have started off. Many of these universities that we see now, that we consider as bold, strong universities with big names, you know, massive budgets, they started oftentimes as humble institutions. University of British Columbia, they started in 1877, and it came from the idea of a John Jessop.
I think we're having a bit of a technical hitch, Everton.
Yes, we've lost Mark there.
Wow.
Yeah. So Miss Belfon, we could, I see where Dr. Dice has said that it's Mrs. Raymond's turn.
Yes, she's next.
Right. So you
All
could
right. Yes. Thank you, Everton. So it's such a pity to lose Mark at that point in time with his passion and commitment. But hopefully we'll get him back before we end.
Right.
We still want to say thank you to him. A soon-to-be graduate of the MEd program, our next presenter, Mrs. Tanisha Daly Raymond. She has moved through the education ranks from teacher to principal of Cross Primary and Infant School, Clarendon, Jamaica. Tanisha, what were you looking for as you continued expanding your education reach, and did you find it? Briefly share your journey with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Belfon. Good evening, all protocols observed. To answer your question, I was in my quest for higher education. I was searching for an institution that was accredited, first and foremost. I wanted to ensure that the institution was accredited. I also wanted to be enrolled in an institution that would provide me with greater knowledge that would have allowed me to function effectively at any level within the education system. I also was looking for an institution that would help me to develop holistically and one that would not require me sitting examinations. Of course, I found it at CCM, partnering with Minnesota, with the University of Minnesota. I know my passion for what I wanted seemed a little bit much, but openly and truthfully, I must share that I found what I was looking for and so much more. I wanted an institution that would have allowed me to become more expressive, more assertive. And to add to that package, I realized that it allowed me to become so much more reflective, something that I was not anticipating. So I have found what I was looking for, and I am grateful.
Okay.
Tanisha, can we see you? We heard you, but we didn't get a chance to see you. I know our audience would love to put a face to the name. Did we lose her?
No, you didn't.
Oh, we just wanted to see you.
You're not seeing me now?
Not really. Mr. Tyndale, are you seeing her?
No, I'm not seeing her. I'm not seeing her.
All right, Tanisha, we probably have a little technical glitch there, but hopefully before we end, we can get a look at who Tanisha
Yes.
Daly Raymond is. Our final segment in today's conversation on elevating Jamaican education for Jamaicans, we look at the topic through the eyes now of the employers. What do they look for when searching for employees to meet their institution needs?
Right.
We begin with Ms. Joyce Miles, who comes to us originally from Chicago, now living in Florida, working in education for 41 years before retiring in 2016. Her last 16 years of employment was spent as principal of 2 Hillsborough County elementary schools in Tampa, Florida, and she had the good fortune to hire Dr. Dwayne Dice, fresh from his MEd studies. Ms. Miles, what were you looking for? How did the skills, competencies, and abilities Dwayne came with fit with your organization goals and vision? Did it make a difference? Share that story with us.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, great. Well, I didn't hire Mr. Dice. He was there when I came as a principal. The previous principal had hired him. Let me say thank you for inviting me to speak. And the hour's late, so I'm going to look over some notes and I'm going to try to skip as much stuff as I can. Yes, I'm from Chicago. I grew up in the Chicago housing projects with a single mom. And I taught 6 years in Chicago and 35 years in the state of Florida. By the time I got to the school that Mr. Dice was at, I was very happy to be able to work with him. He came with leadership qualities. I mean, he is a born leader. So a part of getting a master's is making you take on that leadership responsibility. As a principal, when I go through resumes, I'm looking at people that, first of all, I'm not choosing people only because they have a master's. However, it's nice to know that the people that have applied for a position have masters, because that shows that they have integrity. I mean, they feel good about themselves. They want to do more. They want to be in a leadership role. They're accepting challenges. And most of the schools that I worked at, they were challenging schools. I'm trying to skip over some stuff because of the time. First, and understand that not all schools are created equally. Many schools in the United States are filled with students who come from poor situations. And not to say that rich children or children from other situations are doing much better, because they have challenges too. When I interview teachers, I first give the applicant a set of questions to answer. I'm looking at how they feel about certain things. So when, like, I'm looking at spelling, grammar. I'm looking at how they put their ideas and thoughts to writing, because after all, they're going to teach our boys and girls how they handle situations. Have they taught before? Did they go through an internship program? If they didn't, did they take any leadership roles outside of education? I mean, even a Sunday school teacher is a leadership role. So looking at those kinds of things, how do they when they handle situations, if the outcome is not what they want, what do they do to correct the problem, or how do they make sure that the situation is different? Let's see. Like I said in the beginning, having a master's is impressive. It says a lot about the applicant. It means that the applicant has deeper knowledge in the field. It shows that the applicant is dedicated to enhancing their field, enhancing their time in the field, and studying credibility. Now, Mr. Dice, the one thing that I saw with him, because after all, 5 years ago, I did retire, was his leadership ability. He gained the respect of the staff, the teachers, the parents, through his desire to be a part of whatever was happening in school. He was part of our SEC, our school improvement team, to ensure that we discuss business that would make improvements in the school. Anything after school, other vineyards that we had to go through to represent the school, he was right there, Johnny on the spot. He was there to work with to mentor new teachers that came in to make sure that they understood what was going on in our particular school and ways that they could get help. So he was like blessing, one of those great things in disguise. So again, I'm trying to go through my notes because of time, and I'm trying to get, and the other thing is he was a cool dresser. And in order to get students to respect you, they saw him dress as a man, tie, shirt, every day. So it said to the students, he's not here to play. He's here to educate us, to make sure that we're doing our very best. And so I think that was a part of his leadership. And that's why he gained the respect of so many teachers and parents and all. You know, when I'm interviewing teachers and all, I ask the question, why are you here? Because everybody doesn't, they take a job just for the sake of having a job. And I pay close attention to it. So I'm going to end with that. Our listeners here, think about that. Why are you going to be there? If you're not going to change the life of students, enhance their lives, make their lives better, understand them, why are you here? So that's my spiel for tonight. I wish I could have had an opportunity. I don't see anything, but I'm glad that everything is going quite well. Thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you so very much. Go ahead, Ms. Belfon.
No, man, your time.
Are you sure? Oh, by the way, Mark fell off. He was getting warm, and the internet decided that he should not get warm. So, Mark, I want you to remain cool. He's back with us. So, Mark, I want you to just finish off what you were saying earlier. Mark, are you with us? Oh, no? All right.
And we thank Miss Miles for really she's been here from the start and for that wonderful moment of us just seeing through the employer's eyes what they look for.
Right. So you can go ahead now, Ms. Belfon, with Dr. Shim.
All right. So our next employer is also a graduate of the MEd program. I remember Sister Una said that the graduates are far and wide, and she was really very correct. To close our presentation, Dr. Sasha Shim-Hughes, a TVET practitioner and currently the Regional Director for Heart Trust, the National Training Agency in Clarendon and St. Catherine, Jamaica. Dr. Shim-Hughes, you too are a proud alumni of the Master of Education program at the Catholic College, and in your capacity as Regional Director, you describe one of your specialties as helping people choose meaningful work. In your hiring for post-needing higher level education, what do you look for? How do you see skills and experience and the growth from the MEd program fill in what the employers want and need?
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you're hearing me clearly. Let me know.
Loud and clear.
Awesome. If you'll allow me, I must greet both the moderators, Joan Belfon, and of course, Everton Tyndale. Well, you've been doing an excellent job. Sister Una, Dr. Scott, Dr. Dice for inviting me. Thank you so much. All my esteemed colleagues and friends who shared previously. And of course, those persons on YouTube. And I have to big up Dr. Sandra Hamilton, who played a major role in coordinating my program during my master's program. Now, before I even delve into what employers are looking for at a particular level, I must speak to the connection between the master's program and really the world of work. This program allowed me and my team members and those who came before and after to have a sense of community development, a sense of cooperative learning. We were exposed to the tenets, if not before, definitely then, about performance assessment and how you do reflection and assess and evaluate what you bring to the table, and also the impact that you're having in the lives of those that you're called to teach. And that's important. And of course, all of us would have done our research as relates to going to other institutions to do masters. But this program, and if you're hearing me there in YouTube land, this program allows you to have a great sense of self. And that's important. In order for you to be able to impact others in a quality way, you have to be at the place where you appreciate who you are and whose you are. And I'm truly grateful for that program, for this program, because it allowed me to pivot and it prepared me perfectly for fulfilling my purpose. Now, as an employee of persons at particularly the higher level, it's important too that we have teachers, practitioners, employees who are able to understand the inner life of a teacher, and the master's program provides that. It allows you to understand your role in problem solving and research. You also are required to focus on instructing. So even as we interview you, as we allow you to come to the table, by virtue of having a master's, and I must admit that when I see a resume that says, Catholic College of Mandeville, or says St. Mary's University of Minnesota, there's a pride of place in me that allows me to sit a little bit better in my chair, because I know that I'm going to be getting a powerhouse of a presentation. But employers truly are looking for persons who are adaptive, adaptive to the world of work, adaptive to the different things that are facing us, for example, COVID, and you're able to redefine yourself and pivot and contribute purposefully to your position and also to the place that you call work. And as it is now, as you sit, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand that other programs, yes, will give you a certificate, but this program prepares you for life. And I say it without no apology at all, because I am a living, breathing testimony about what this program does. It allows you to be a leader par excellence. It allows you to understand the role and function that you have every single day that you go to the world of work. So how do we select? In my position, first of all, we use a behavioral techniques interview instrument. And this instrument allows us to ask you questions that prepares you to speak from a standpoint of experience. And there's a simple question that sometimes we get wrong. And I remember one of my first classes when I did my master's program, and you were required to do, of course, a reflection about who you are and whose you are and what you bring to the table. And oftentimes people come into interviews and just get this question about themselves so wrong, simple yet profound. So we use the behavioral techniques interview. And then, of course, the psychometric, whether or not psychologically you are prepared to be in this position. And there are many employers too who use the aptitude test. You may have the ability, but do you have the aptitude to be an impactful instructor, facilitator, lecturer, or just a staff member in a given field? So we look for those things. But we also, of course, use a process of elimination. And that's why higher education is important. We operate in a world and a time and a space where a degree in and of itself, a diploma, it's good to have that foundation, but it's even better to have a master's degree from a noted, renowned university. And I'm so pleased that the Catholic College is taking on this awesome and amazing program so that the reach can be even farther and wider. Because we also look as employers on what lies below the surface, your hidden potential and depths. And a program such as this allows for it to be unearthed. And I keep making reference to the program because this program has allowed me as a leader and interviewer to look below the surface. Yes, you have the degree, but what else do you bring to the table? Do you bring your leadership qualities, your influence? Do you bring, your interpersonal skills? Do you bring your communication and presentation skills? Do you bring your change management skills? Are you a subject matter expert? And this is important for you to appreciate that an employer anywhere in the world will interview 10, 15 persons with the same degree. The question you must ask yourself is what will set you apart from the person to your left or to your right, or the persons who too will be submitting a resume. This master's program will, because it prepares you for international appeal. So then we also look for those who are strategic thinkers. And we know that our research papers had to be driven based on strategy, had to be driven based on research, emotional intelligence, and also our ability to present self, to present a position, our ability to defend our passion and our purpose. So it's important to understand too that when you have been selected for the job, my role is to evaluate, and we evaluate based on your performance. We evaluate based on the accountabilities framework. We evaluate based on a balanced scorecard, which is a step-by-step guide as to what you must do and how you do it. But there are some fundamental basic principles that you must have to support this certificate, this diploma, this degree that you will acquire. You must be innovative and creative. You must be analytical in thinking. You must, of course, have an appreciation for self and be a problem solver. You must, in this day and age, be comfortable with technology, and you must have high levels of integrity. And that's important. The world has enough persons who are willing to do anything to get by. This institution, this Christian-based institution, is built on the foundation of the core values, a Christ-centered institution which directs, which emphasizes and continues to promote the things of God. So the opportunities for improvement as you decide to start this journey or to promote this institution, we have to improve our levels of efficiency, our levels of adaptability and flexibility. We must be technologically savvy and driven. We must also get rid of we have always done it this way. And that's why the Catholic College is doing it another way. We must be able, that is, to learn new concepts. And we must develop our interpersonal skills. And we must also have a belief that higher education will provide us with higher thinking if we absorb that which we have taught. So from an employer standpoint, we first, of course, evaluate your piece of paper, that degree, but we look for the qualities, the tenets, the facets of a world-class employee. Somebody who is an adaptive leader, who is driven, who is focused, who has the core values, who has excellent interpersonal skills, someone who is able to morph, to transform, and to pivot. If you ever had a doubt in your mind that this institution would provide that for you, you would have heard from several persons who have demonstrated and articulated the impact that this Masters in Education, Teaching and Learning program has had on their lives. I sit here as someone who has been transformed and renewed by my thinking because of the facilitators, the lecturers, my family in this program that ensured that no one was left behind. We started.
Sasha, I hate to interrupt your flow because I mean the passion and beauty of what you're saying is so powerful and moving, and I noticed passion running through all the graduates. But we're kind of running out of time, and I don't want to lose our Sunday evening audience. So just your last sentence as we close this segment, and Everton will just recap some main points. So your last sentence.
Yes. So my last sentence truly is that if you're looking for a program, a place to make you better, because you are built for more, you're built to last, then the examples have been laid out before you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sasha. I like that term, built to last. I love it. Everton, it's been a wonderful evening. It's been a feast of presentation, of thoughts, of ideas, of muddying the waters. Recap quickly for us.
And I know you want to bring the curtains down, but Dr. Dice is just encouraging us or sharing with us that Mr. Mark Smith.
Oh yes, we need to get Mark.
We need to get him so Mark will not get warm, lest his internet will chip him out. He'll just remain cool. Over to you, Mark.
All right, thank you so much. Let me just get straight into it, just to cover some of the key tenets. And of course, Sasha did an amazing job of talking about some of those things that are so important and embedded in the program that add value as an employer. And likewise, when I sit in an interview with individuals who come from CCM, you're finding that depth of interest in being a catalyst for change. And that is powerful. There's also something about the sense of community that is taught, that is ingrained in the program. And Sasha alluded to this. This notion that education is not just there to ensure that you get a piece of paper, but education as a means of character development is critical. And that's one of the key tenets. I remember many times Sister Una talking about the impact we can have on not only people's minds, but their hearts. People will care so much more about what you're teaching if they think you fundamentally care about them. And that came out in a strong and powerful way. So concepts about emotional learning was something that resonated through the program for me. In fact, emotional intelligence, back then it wasn't bandied about so frequently. Social and emotional learning, that as a leader, I have to understand where my children are. And I talk about it as a leader because teachers are inherently leaders. And the whole concept of teachers as teacher leaders, a powerful concept that came out, something that I was introduced to, and something that would have changed my entire perception of what my role is as a leader, as a teacher in the classroom. And there's been almost like the wind beneath my wings as I have moved from various levels of education system, making my small mark. And also this whole notion of my own scholarly interest. It started really in my research period. It was in that engagement, that period when I was working on my research, that I found an interest and a love for research. Prior to that, to be honest, I didn't have this great passion and interest. And I really looked at social and emotional learning. Today, I'm proud to say I'm pursuing my doctoral degree, and it's in emotional intelligence with K-12 leaders. And the whole idea is that seed of intellectual curiosity towards the job that I do, something that we do understand and we kind of put as separate and apart, is so important as it inspires, it motivates, and it takes you on a journey. And let me tell you, colleagues, as I close, every journey begins with the first step. And I encourage you as individuals sitting on your couch somewhere, on your bed, listening in on this program, that today you will have heard something about this program that will spark an interest, that you'll get on your laptop, you'll go to the website, you'll start to research this program, because I guarantee you that you will not be disappointed. Everything starts with those first steps. And Sister Una spoke very eloquently about those early steps in CCM. And I'm so happy to be a part of this journey that this institution has been on, and the many lives that is empowered and uplifted over these many years. I look forward to the continued growth and development of the program. I guarantee you, colleagues, that you will not be disappointed if you put your trust in this program, because I am a living testament of the value that this master's program can have on your life. Thank you so much, colleagues. Blessing. Have a wonderful.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so happy we were able to bring you back to close. Thank you so much. I see you're sitting in your principal's chair.
In my office.
Wow.
Over to you, Everton.
Wow. What a conversation.
Yes.
For those of you who are out there in YouTube land, Facebook land, get on board. This is CCM. This is our program, our school, our college. So we would have shared, about the benefits of higher education, and the NEI shared about policy issues. Where we sit today, Mark and Dr. Shim and all the others, we know that we are able to make some policy decisions that we were never able to make where we were. Thank God for that. We talk about disparity and equity and equality. We want to thank again Elizabeth Prout and Sister Dr. Una O'Connor. I know she doesn't like us saying that, just Sister Una. Sister, I've said many times that I am married to the college and nobody can divorce me. Nobody, no matter what they try. I've done the diploma, I've done the bachelor's, I've done the master's, and I hear Dr. Dan Davis-Smith saying to me that the doctoral program is coming on. Oh my God, bring it on. Bring it on. Dr. Scott has shared with us that we can trust the integrity of our shared work. And that's what we've done over these many years. We've trusted the integrity of our shared work. Dr. Shim, she was also bubbling with excitement, and she's always been that. I just love to see her. She's just sharing the excitement of the program, and I know it moves through her bones all along. Mark, thank you so very much for bringing poise and elegance to the program in what you've done and what you're doing there at Monroe. And I tell you, prior to the MED program, research was not so much of a passion to me, but thank God the master's program has done it. We've learned about collaboration, reflection, I could go on and on and on. I want to thank you all for sharing in this conversation. And we know that we are going to take it to another level. The conversation continues. God bless you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Everton. So Everton has sort of taken away my thank you, but that's okay.
Right.
I so love the passion. I want to especially thank Inez, because I think where Inez is now is probably midnight or after. So I'm really grateful that Inez in Djibouti set up so she can share her journey with us. I thank all the listeners on YouTube, all the presenters, staff who were on Zoom with us, for taking the time to share our conversation on elevating education in Jamaica. We cheated this first round a little bit, and we looked at it through the eyes of one program, our MEd program. We thought that was a really good place to start. But the conversation has to continue, because when we look at Mr. Morgan's research, we know that there's a lot of work to be done. So all of you waiting to apply for higher education, we know you have options, but if you're looking for an edge, if you're looking for something different, if you really want to touch lives and you want a different learning experience, we encourage you to join the Master of Education in Teaching and Learning program. Thank you, all presenters. Thank you, Everton. Thank you, Ms. Miles, for coming out of retirement to share with us today. Everton has already spoken about Dr. Shimhu. Dr. Davis, we thank you for jumping in at the last minute. Thank you to the planning team, Mrs. Nada Gray, Mrs. Gaynell Powell-Scarlett, Dr. Leslie Ann Samuels from JD Tan. I really especially want to thank Dr. Dwayne Dice, but I've never seen a more committed, energetic, vibrant, and he will not give up. He is so resilient. No matter what challenge you throw at Dwayne, Dwayne was determined that we would make this happen. Dwayne, we could not have done it without you and without the support of the Jamaica Diaspora Education Task Force. So, as Miss Lou say, walk good.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Walk good.
Walk good.
Make good Duppy follow you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Oh, you were waiting for questions. Oh, no, and that's why I send them to you, so you could have prepared without